CST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hotter Show.
What is up, everybody? We're rolling out of you here today in episode 326 of The Hotter Show. I hope you guys doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I got a badass episode for you here today. I do every single week right here on The Hotter Show. I sit down with my buddy Brandon Gregory from Drop Top Alibi for a little catch up and a little to talk about kind of what he's been up to the last year and a half. We talked to Brandon back late 2020, and obviously a lot has happened in the world. We talk about their brand new single, Dropped Up Alibi's brand new single that is coming out actually tomorrow as you guys are hearing this Dill's song. We talk about some upcoming shows, kind of the difficulty of keeping things together musically during the pandemic, but how he and the band were able to do that, as well as a little bit about the recording process for some of the new singles. He talks about the band's new way of recording, and it's a really cool and interesting way that they do things to keep the energy of their live show on their recordings, and also a lot of other fun little lead-offs in the conversation there. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. Brandon's always a fantastic guest. But before we jump into it, I of course need to give a humongous shout out to everyone who supported last week's episode of the show, in which I sat down with the reigning and defending, undefeated, by the way, for the last 2 years, Chinlock heavyweight champion of the world, CJ Felony. And we had a really fun chat all about his career, about wrestling in general. And it was a lot of fun. So I hope that any fans of The Harder Show who maybe aren't wrestling fans, maybe check it out, because I think you'll really enjoy the conversation. It's a lot of fun. And any wrestling fans who are listening to this, thank you very much for giving some of my other content a chance, because we have a lot of fun here on the House Show and have a lot of great conversations, like my conversation here today with Brandon Gregory from Drop Top Alibi. Let's get into it. We got Brandon Gregory from Drop Top Alibi back on the show. Brandon, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you? It's been a little while, eh? Almost 2 years now. It's
like September of 2020, I think. Somewhere in that ballpark. I can't believe it's been that long, man. But no, I'm great, dude, and it's good to talk to you. You know, I know that you guys have got some really cool shit coming up, and I'm hyped to get to kind of have a bit of a catch up with you as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
That's it. Well, so first and foremost, just jumping in, what have you been up to since September of 2020? A lot has, I know time is kind of like a weird thing right now with how the world's been, but you know, what have you been up to the last year and a half, basically?
Yeah, man. Well, you know, last year, like, kind of got cool for a little bit, right? Like after the Delta wave, right, there was like 4 or 5 month period where shit was like kind of open, right? So we got to play a handful of really good shows last year, which was great. And we've been in our fucking little woodshed up north, man. We've just been writing and tone chasing and, you know, buying vintage gear and really like just like absolutely owning all of like the weirdness that we all like have always kind of had. We've just kind of really become unhinged to writing. I've also gotten good enough at writing that it's like, it's palpable and it feels really honest and authentic, and it's sounding great too, man. And you know, live off the floor stuff has been fun to learn and mess around with, and we've been recording a lot of new songs coming out, and we're getting started now.
Awesome, man. That's it. Well, I'm excited, dude, because like you guys are, Drop Top's one of those bands that like when I discovered you guys had such a, like you said, almost like a, I don't want to say a quirkiness, but like you have a very interesting style of how you guys write. Like it's very, you know, you have the 90s element, the classic rock element, a little bit of new school, like you have a really interesting vibe of how you guys write. So that's really cool to hear that you guys have kind of been just, now when you say up in the woodshed up north, I got to ask about that. Do you like literally have a little like shack up north you guys go to jam, or what's up?
Well, we do live in Canada, so, you know, any sort of up north shack house is going to at least need to have insulated walls, right? So we have this place near the Aurora GO station that for a number of years was above what I assume is an illegal grow up. But the last times we've been there, we've noticed there has been no like horrible weed smell, and it's been very quiet there. So I don't think they're there anymore. It's beside a huge like tow truck yard and shit. Like it's great, but it's like we tracked the first EP there with like Burn on it and stuff, and we've been rehearsing and writing there basically since we've known Jeff, and he was like playing like to help us out for like a solid 2 years before he joined the band. So we've been going up there since like 2015, 2016, maybe. And yeah, man, that's where we could all meet, once things got a little less like, nobody leave your house in the summer of 2020. We just started going up there again, and we just had a lot of material, a lot of stuff we'd all been sitting on, like some backlog from when things were cooking in 2019 and into the first 2 months of 2020. And then also like, Dylan came with the riff that we all immediately wanted to jump into. Luke had some stuff, and he learned how to play piano a little bit. So now he can he's a drummer, right? He's like bang, boom, bop, but he hears something in his head, and now he has an instrument that he can like play that shit on. Right. So it's been cool. And Dill's song is Dill's song. The demo we had, it was like, he sent us a voice memo of that main riff, and we were all like, well, this is good. Yeah, let's jump into this. And so we just titled the demo Dill's song, because nothing's named when it's in demo phases, but at any given have 30 demos, right? So you just kind of name them. And this one was just always called Dill's song. And then we were going to call it something else, because there's like some lyrics that stand out in terms of like repeating phrases and stuff. And then Jeff was just like, I want to call this song Dill's song. And then and then it just, over like a period of like 3 months, it just built up to, we were all like, fuck it. And it's cool. And we dig it, and it means nothing, but also like, there's an inside joke involved with it too. But yeah, when Dylan first showed us that riff, that was one of the first songs we wanted to jump into. So now we're here ready to release it. And since then we've, this year is like hyper focus on new music, being in the studio. We found a great new process that really captures like that intensity of like a high energy, like tight rock band that you only get at a show with halfway decent sound. You know what I mean? So, or great sound if you're lucky. We wanted to capture that vibe because we never really had before. It's like we're proud of like where we came from and what we did and the growing pains and different things we tried. Burn was one of the first songs we ever tracked in a studio, and it holds up to this day. If I just wrote that song today, would I produce it the same way? Absolutely not. Like, we just know how to do things differently now. And that's what this new wave is all about. And we're just throwing music at the wall this year. We're throwing all of it. So if you guys want to hear music, then come hang out for at least a year and a half. And then if we keep writing after that, like if we haven't tapped the well out and, I can't write any more songs, then there'll be more songs. You know what I mean?
That's it, brother. Well, that's cool. And I mean, it's funny because you were talking about, there's a whole bunch of things you've said I want to dive into, but because we're talking about the single, it actually drops tomorrow as you guys are hearing this. So if you haven't yet, go pre-save that shit right now. I'll have the link down below. Go pre-save it. Dill's song is, listen, I got a little exclusive sneak peek here, and let me tell you,
it's how I get on these shows. After show. Here's what we're gonna do. Can I come back on?
Bribe me with riffs. This guy knows. He says, yo, if I said hotter a riff that's just gonna make him want to like mosh in his kitchen, we're in. And dude, big shouts to Dill, man, because that fucking riff, second I heard it, I was like, that is a really cool, interesting riff. Like, it's it's not like, I don't know. It's just a cool as fuck riff. It sounds like, I don't even know. Like, it's so, not that it sounds like another riff, but it's like the style of how it was written, the timing of it, the way the drums come in and everything. I'm just like, it is such an interesting riff and intro to that song, and the whole song is badass. You guys got to wait till tomorrow to hear it. But like, listen, it's really fucking good. I wouldn't lie to you guys. I've been singing the chorus to myself for like, since I heard it. So go pre-save that shit right now. And if it's Friday and you're hearing this, go right now. I'll have a link down below as well. Go buy it, stream it, whatever the fuck. Go get this song because it's awesome.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Yeah, and if you are watching this now and you haven't pre-saved it yet, you have until midnight, Friday morning when it hits midnight. And every single pre-save helps. There's kind of all kinds of BS to, trying to get sort of through the white fog of the streaming age. But like Spotify Canada will notice if you have like, oh, there's 100 pre-saves, this could be cool, and they listen to the song, right? It's all a lottery, and every little bit helps. So if you dig the band and you're excited to hear it, go click that pre-save link. It'd be huge.
That's it. And it's well worth it. It only takes a second, so go hook it up, guys, because it's a badass song. And the second it comes out, it'll be waiting for you when you wake up. There's nothing I love more than waking up in the morning to a good fucking riff. Okay. Like, come on. There's nothing better. It's coffee and riffs. That's it.
So I gotta tell you then. So the reason why that song sounds the way it does, and why that energy of like the live show and the intense, like us playing a song together, the reason why it's so properly captured in that song is because we've tracked everything we're going to release over the next year and a half. All of it is being tracked live off the floor with all four of us playing at the same time. And then we're overdubbing just like ear candies, guitar solos, acoustic guitars, whatever, and then vocals, right? So Dill's song, the song you've heard, that was take 3. And we said, okay, that's good. And everything was done except for lead guitar and vocals.
That's awesome.
And then what we did was we used a process called reamping, which is you basically take your performance. So in this case, it was everyone's take 3, and you can run that performance through any piece of equipment you decide to plug into the reamp box. So we used all vintage gear. I got a 1974 Marshall Fawn going. Dylan's got a combo thing going. Luke basically used the Nick Oliveri rig from the first Queens of the Stone Age record. That old,
nice, dude.
That really thumpy PV stack, bro. Yeah, it's like almost to spec the amp that Nick Oliveri had back in the day. And this guy Graham Shaw, man, he's a live. What does he do? He works for Crown Lands, or with Crown Lands, and he's their drum and monitor tech, I believe. And he will do front of house for monitors, and he's a great drummer, really good ear for producing and songwriting. Like, he's been at it for years, and he just has all this crazy, like, vintage preamps, vintage amps. He can do the modern shit like reamping, and he's pretty good with Pro Tools. Like, you're like a painful scooch off, but the rest of the take is great. It's just like, what if we slow down the song a BPM? Does it all of a sudden line up? And sometimes it does. And Zeppelin and them used to do that too, except they used to have to like take the tape and like do it. So it just finally, it was the process we knew was going to give us what we wanted. And we finally found the 5th member to do that. And it's Graham Shaw. And a huge shout out to Jeff Cox, the drummer, for introducing us to him. And then, and then the thing I'm most proud of at this point, man, is honestly, like, that's what we were able to come up with. Like, when did we track this? Towards the end of last year. So, like, hardened by like this pandemic of like barely being able to play, but getting those few shows under our belt and like staying on top of writing new material and getting those new songs into the set right away. It's like we were actually able to get this good during such a dark time for music to pull this process off. Like, that's what I'm most proud of. The songs are good. I like the songs. They're fun and I'm proud of them. But the fact we actually were able to pull it off with no shows, no touring. Like, we were banking on our 2020 tour to make us good enough to do this kind of process. But instead, we just woodshed it, and we all stayed on top of our own selves. And we just got funky with the sounds, man. Everyone has fucking, drank the punch on, the Josh Homme approach to playing guitar, some of the older, weirder grunge stuff. It's like, it just makes something that's ugly and wrong sound pretty and right. And you get some like really bent kind of like the main riff to Dill song is bent. It's fucking bent. Jeff just kind of shows you where the pocket is and you can bop to it. It's sick.
Yes. That's it. Yeah. That's what's so cool about it.
And that's kind of what's fun about it. It's like everyone we've shown it to, it's kind of, when we run One Rock Search and we were like, you're having meetings with labels, managers and stuff. It's like, we're a hard band to kind of compartmentalize into one thing. Right. And a lot of people are suggesting that, the stoner rock kind of grunge vibe, old alternative, like, late 80s, like the Jane's Addiction, Chili Pepper stuff. Like, there's a lot of people who are just like, nah, like people aren't into that. It's like, are you sure, man? Because like,
really,
even when we weren't that good, everywhere we went, people loved it. And there were people there, like the people who grew up in that generation are only in their 40s right now. And there's a lot of 12-year-old kids who love Nirvana and, mumble rap and all that shit. Like, that's grunge. That's like rap and pop's version of grunge, basically. Like Juice WRLD, are you kidding me? Like these guys are like on Kurt Cobain levels of fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, look around, people. And this has always been a huge part of us and our writing, and like where like I learned how to write songs and all the guys as well. It's like, you know what? I'm just happy we're still here playing. So we're not going to listen to anybody. And not like if we collaborated with somebody, it would be totally fluent and awesome. But like, hey, that's a great song, but it's to this. What if you tried that? It's like, well, we already tracked it. Like, it's staying. You know what I mean? Like that's
I know
that's
what you're
kind
saying. Yeah.
That's kind of where it's at. And kind of when songs are done and they're ready to go through, we start playing them live, or, we book a studio session. And the great thing about Live Off the Floor, man, is like we pop in for 2 days. We can bang 2 songs out. No problem. As long as my voice can hold up and do 2 songs a day, we can get 2 songs done in 2 days. It's great. This process is amazing.
Well, and that's what's so interesting. Like you had mentioned about like with your guys' older stuff, which is obviously it's fantastic, but it's a lot more, I wouldn't say polished is the right word, but it's very like it has a great energy and they're great tunes. I mean, you know how much I love Ice for You. Like that's still one of my favorite songs of your guys. But like now with you guys really capturing that right off the floor, this is a really good look into how you guys bring that energy live, which is something you guys are known for, is that energy, right? And that kind of down and dirty, grungy kind of style. Like it really captures that on Dill's song. And like, even vocally for the chorus, it's just you and power. And that's it. There's no like, fancy, super fancy, like crazy overdubs happen or anything. It's just, that's straight you. And it's so powerful in that chorus when it kicks in. Like it's almost like you just let the hook speak for itself. Right.
Thank you, man. I'm glad you said all those things. I'm glad you enjoyed it and you felt it. Cause yeah, that's what we were going for. It's like, we really want to translate what you're going to see on stage, whether it's a big festival outside or if it's, a club downtown, like that kind of energy that you get, we want to get it on the songs. And yeah, like the modern way of recording, like it sounds very clean. Everything's digital, right? Like you're still playing and whatnot, but you can literally edit in everything you wanted to, on a guitar, right. On a, like, it's really easy to get into that, make it all sound perfect. If it's like pretty good, you can make it perfect. And that's cool. And it works if the band plays that perfect and you can tell the band's playing that perfect. You know what I mean? And we just like, we know we're good enough, but we also knew there was going to be flubs. Like, there's like, I'm running like a stupid hot vintage acoustic 450 amp, like a total Caius, Josh Homme Desert Sessions kind of amp. And I just did a single track. Like this was one of our like 4 or 5 overdubs we did on this song. This was one of them. I literally just took my Gretsch, my hollow body. I plugged into this vintage 450. Graham just pinned. He's like, this is going to be stupid, man. And he just whoosh, and said, "Okay, when you're not playing, it's gonna feedback. Cover your ears." He ran in the booth. Fucking hit record, and I just did one pass. There's mistakes all over it, but it's just supposed to be like a middle layer,
right?
And it's stupid fuzz tone. So it's like Dylan's here, I'm here, and then this tone just up the middle.
It's right in the middle, and it's just fuzz.
And you can hear it every time I tried to like choke with the drums. You hear it like screeching and screaming, and it's like a part of me was like, like the first time I heard the mix, it was like, oh, the way that I had always learned and also had to do, recordings before. I was like, oh, that sounds so sloppy. But then the more I listen to it, it's like, that's literally the only noticeable mistake from a live off the floor take. Like you let these things stay. You know what I mean? And I just I've got to enjoy it. I've got to like let it live there. And it's like, it's kind of cool. It kind of gives it that vibe that like, this is actually these guys playing in the room. Cause that's right. Like,
it's like, I'm there experiencing this as I would at a live show. Like, and it's so cool. Cause I was going to ask you, you have that, when I think of certain people and like their instruments and stuff like that, whenever I think of you, I always think of that red Gretsch, right? What exactly is that red Gretsch? Because I've wanted to ask you, is it a Jet or what is it, that Gretsch?
If I'm being honest with you, it's a guitar that has no business sounding or looking as good as it does and is. It's literally a $700 like serial number Korean Gretsch, right. And it just sounds really good. It sounds really good. I have a couple of things on my pedal board that are just essentially like EQ things, but like the straight up tone of that guitar is really good. I can get a lot out of it with the neck pickup cleans and stuff. And when I start running that thing through, my trainer or my vintage Marshall, and I'm throwing fuzzes on it or whatever, like it's not a $5,000 semi hollow body that like you can do like a stadium tour with if you're Queens of the Stone Age and you're just ridiculous amounts of distortion on these super feedbacky guitars.
Right.
And but that guitar, man, it's it's got its quirks. Sometimes I just get fed up and bring the SG out, but it's a great guitar and it's a workhorse, man. I've beaten the shit out of that thing.
Well, that's it. And you're a player where like, you're very graceful when you play, but like also like you beat the shit out of your guitar too, when you're really giving it, right? Like I've seen the footage of you rocking and it's like, it's one of those guitars that like, I am a little familiar with Gretsch's stuff. And like, I was always like, how is he getting such a, like, obviously the Gretsch's are known for that pickup. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head right now. Is it all stock, that Gretsch?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I haven't modded it.
I can't think of it's like, it's a retro style. It's basically like a cross between like a P90 and a humbucker. I can't think of the damn name of the pickup they have. It's like their own type of pickup. I don't know. Or something like that, or
like if it does, that's 100% why it sounds as good as it does. But unless they do it on all their models, this one wouldn't have gotten that.
Oh, okay.
But maybe they do, because maybe that's the reason why it sounds so good. I'm not much of a gear nerd. I wish I was more, because especially as we like vintage gear and live off the floor and this and that. It's
you're going to get those people that are going to be like, oh bro, so like, what do you, it's like, it's a Marshall and it sounds really good.
You know what it is, man? For me, I'm just grateful that Graham is Graham and that Dylan is Dylan, and they're both super enthusiastic and knowledgeable. And it's just like, I could tell you kind of what I'm going for and show you songs. And then like, I know how to play anything and make it sound like that. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't tell you what gear I should use. And I honestly really want to get better at that. Because I think honestly, if I wanted to try producing a song, whether it's my song or somebody else's song, if I knew the tech side of it, I think I'd be pretty good at it. But I'm just so inept with it. Like I don't know why I just resisted learning it. I guess it's just stubborn me. And now here I am, not a punk 20-year-old anymore going, why the fuck didn't you learn how to do any of that stuff, man? Like you just played guitar the whole time. Like, why?
It's like, hey man, it's like, I want to get like a fuzz tone. Like, it's like you have the basic understanding of what you're looking for, which is more than some people have, I guess. Right. Like some guys, it's like, I want my guitar to sound like this. And it's like, okay, but I don't want to spend a lot of money. It's like, okay, like, you know, at least you know what you want. And it sounds like you guys are super dialed into this, almost like it sounds like coming through this last year and a half or 2 years or whatever is almost kind of like not hardened you guys, but like almost like kind of focused you guys a little bit. Would you agree with that? Like you guys are kind of more like, because you weren't able to, like you were saying, obviously do the touring and stuff. Like it's almost like individually, I've been talking to a lot of musicians, obviously, since during this pandemic, and like a lot of musicians, it's gone one of two ways. Either they've really become super focused on what they really want out of their music, or it's kind of gone the other way, where I know a lot of them who have kind of just fell off to the wayside. And I mean, I'm hyped that, you know, to hear you guys have been kind of just woodshedding and doing your thing. But would you say that had something to do with it too? Like with this kind of like, I think like the last time we spoke, we had touched a little bit on kind of the stoner, fuzzy tone, kind of dirty rock and roll type stuff, but it was more of a, I don't know if I had the same vibe as much as I do now. Would you say that this kind of year and a half, you guys have really just dialed into that, or did you just really get into that kind of music more, or is there a reason behind that?
Well, to answer your first question, like, did it focus us more? I mean, 100%, because it just became so one dimensional. And once we were able to like physically meet each other, you know, there's no shows, there's no this, there's no that. You know, what do you want to do? Like, well, why would we keep playing kind of the songs we've been playing the last few years? So it just became all about working on new songs. And, you know, I had a huge creative stride about 3-4 months into the pandemic. And I was maybe 2 or 3, because there were a couple songs early on that I was messing around with that have like since become stuff that we're going to put out soon. But so once, by the time we were able to all like get together, it's like we're all just sitting on all this stuff, and Dylan busts out Dill's song. You know, I'm playing all these songs, like sad boy fucking songs, and then I started playing the like heavier rock, like, you know, but it's also, you're in some sort of headspace, so it kind of comes off that way too, right? And, you know, Jeff and Dylan have always been like huge Queens of the Stone Age, and like, you know, Jeff is just a big stoner rock guy, and, you know, started showing me bands like Tiger Cub and stuff like that. And it's just like I drank the Queens of the Stone Age punch like hard in like 2019, 2018. I was late. I was really late to the party. But then as it became a real possibility for us to, you know, just completely do like mimic some of these processes more or less, it's like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, the writing's kind of been like this. We've been listening to so much of it. Like, let's go for it. We're not actively trying to sound like anything. These first 3 singles are kind of like here, here, and here, but it still sounds like,
yeah.
But, yeah, man, it just kind of, it focused us, because like it just all became one dimensional. And, you know, I'm very grateful especially at this point, you know, that we didn't fall by the wayside. We wanted to keep writing, and we wanted, you know, we were aware of sort of things that were starting to happen for us like weeks before the pandemic and whatnot. And we just, we didn't stop playing. We didn't stop writing, which, you know, I definitely took for granted at the time, but like, especially since last summer, just kind of looking around and seeing all the guys who aren't doing it anymore. It's like, yeah, no, like, I'm just happy to be here. Let's just play these songs how we want to play them.
Right. And when that's it too, right? It's like, there's, I mean, like I said, I mean, I haven't really talked about it on the show, I guess, but just because you've kind of bringing it up, like, you know, there has been a few bands I've seen that they were just like, hey man, 2020 was supposed to be our year. Like everything we had, we were going to put into 2020. And it's almost like there's been a lot of people who just, they've kind of fallen to the wayside. Like, was there ever, I don't want to like bring the whole conversation down, but just because we're on the topic, was there ever a minute even where you were like, shit, like, or were you always just like, nope, head down, keep writing, we'll get back to what we want?
I mean, me personally, almost to a detriment, I was like, keep your head down, keep your nose to the grindstone. Cause I kind of just like, you know, whether it's this, that, or the other thing, sometimes it's hyper focusing on work.
Right.
That I kind of do thing with, right? And that was pushing some of the other guys to a place they weren't happy about. And all it was just, you know, on my end, like, you know, it's been hard on you, but check in with everybody else every now and again too, right? Because maybe you would have seen that they're kind of tired right now, and maybe we should just focus on what's fun and whatnot. But what made that challenging was there was obvious. I mean, you were there too. Like there were like 2-3 month periods, you know, on 4 separate occasions where you couldn't do anything. And like we would get together during some of those illegal times, but it was like, okay, we're all working from home, or like I've only seen the guys at work on the job site. Our family units are all tight. Nobody's going anywhere. Like, let's the 4 of us get together. Like, but it would still be like 4-6 weeks at a time. We couldn't see each other. So I wanted to like really like push in the downtime, but we didn't have a lot of songs to release. The songs we did release, we all we could do is just push them. And it just kind of, it hit a point where we all had a conversation, and it was kind of like, you know, you mean well, but like chill the fuck out. Let's just write and record. We have this great producer now. Like, let's just focus on that. And like the last year and a half has been really good. And it's been fun, man. And I'm grateful. And, you know, and I'm grateful guys still want to do it, you know, because it's like some guys, fall by the wayside, but other people, like, just life happens, right?
Of
so like
course,
the biggest thing for us is just, the 4 of us still want to write these songs and get these songs out. And hey, if we get to do a tour run or 2 or whatever, then great, let's do it, you know?
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, man. It's like there was a point, you know, like I was really fortunate during this whole time where I was able to still, because of the work I do, I was still able to go to work and like see people and like, you know, so, but even for me, there was a point where it was like, hey, like nothing's happening. Like there's this dark tunnel we're in, and it's like, hey, there's a light. Oh shit, never mind. Like, and you know, I talked to some people, and it's like, it got pretty fucking rough there for a minute for a lot of people, and it still kind of is. But now, at least here, and you know, like we're both in Ontario, obviously, so like, you know, we've been going through it, like, you know, but it's almost like now, like we saw that light kind of late last year, and there were still some people I spoke to, they were like, nope, like we'll wait and see what happens. And there's some projects, even like myself, I've been slowly working on, and some people, it's like just that creative juice was just sucked out of them, because it's like, what's the point? Like, I'm like, just stay focused. And you know, I've been the same, man, just nose down, keep working on stuff, keep going to work, worry about the family and the cats and the dogs and shit. And, you know, like, just like, let's all just stay healthy. Let's keep working, keep doing the things that make you happy, and don't fuck around and worry about, you know, what's going on out there, because you can't control it anyway. So just stay focused, you know?
It's interesting, because once that, you know, and I, you know, I huge respect to the band, like for just like, you know, chatting with me, just to like, you know, because once we all found that pocket that was like comfortable, and it was literally just a unit of, okay, like we're going to do our day to day. This is what we're also doing. And this is what we do when we get to have fun. And let's just find solace and comfort in that. Like, it was very relaxing, and it was very almost comfortable, as difficult as these times have been. We were fortunate enough to kind of all be able to find a pocket where some sort of employment had returned, or some school stuff started happening. And in addition to that, nobody really got sick until just the last couple of months. Jeff and I managed to get it. You know, we were all in a position where we could still do it. And it was, you know, it was kind of, you're stuck. Like, there's nothing you can do. So it might as well feel like decent, instead of just dreading it all the time, if it's, you know, if it's comfortable. And for us, it was a position where it wasn't so stressful or bad anymore. Like, you know, okay, I'm back to work now. Great. That stress is gone, or this or that, or, you know what I mean? Like, we were grateful in that sense. We were very lucky in that sense. Even during the most recent wave, man, like everybody was able to you know, I got schooling for this now to finish my ticket, or yeah, they're still busy. I'm getting to go to work. It's great. You know, like we were pretty lucky in that sense, you know?
That's it. And I mean, so was I as well, right? Like it's just being able to still take comfort in the things you love to do. It is always very important, of course, in everyday life as you get older and stuff, especially like it's so important to have that. But then also during these last couple of years, it's like, you know, you got to have something that gives you comfort and gives you joy, and you can unleash some energy from your mind. Cause it's like, just, if you don't have that, like, I don't know, I would have gone crazy. So I can only imagine how a creative son of a bitch like you would have been feeling too if you didn't have that either. Right.
I still have my tool pouch, so I make myself work a hard labor job. So I get rid of a lot of energy.
Right. Yes. Right. Well, that's cool though, man. Like I'm glad to hear that you guys were able to kind of keep it going, because, you know, there's so much now coming. Like I said, I think it was late last year, I was talking with my buddy, Matt Lane on his podcast. And I said, you know, there's going to be this resurgence in the music scene, because it has to happen, because there's all these fucking badass bands like yourselves who they've got songs ready to go. They're ready to go out and just shred your face with badass rock and roll. And like people are just craving good live shows. And like, man, I'm really excited because already it's starting to happen. I mean, looking at you guys, like May is going to be a really cool month for you guys. But then also like you guys have got some cool stuff coming up. Like just talk about some of the shows you guys got coming. Like, I mean, just looking, I know you guys have something coming up with the Jailbirds. You've got something coming up with Revive the Rose. You've got something coming up with Adam and the Metal Hawks. Like walk me through some shows you guys have got coming up the next few months here.
Well, actually, we're playing tonight at the Bovine. So it's St. Patrick's Day. And if you are going out after watching this podcast episode, come to the Bovine if you're in Toronto. Yeah, and then we got we're playing with Revive the Rose and Adam and the Metal Hawks up in Barrie, which is gonna be sick. We haven't played in Barrie since the last time we were there. We got to play with a band called Weapons, and we were all opening up for Theory of a Dead Man, which was kind of whatever. I mean, yeah, it's those guys, but they sold out a fucking 1,100 person venue that we got to play at. So it was cool, you know. Right. They were friendly enough by the end of it, so it's all fine.
Okay. See, I grew up with Theory, so I mean, you know,
Weapons were great, awesome guys, great band. And the Theory guys, like their crew was cool. They were really, really accommodating, really nice guys. The guitar techs were awesome. The guys, like when their set was done and we got to chat with them, like they were pretty cool. But yeah, Memory Lane, man, fuck, like some of those songs like on the MTV rotation and all that stuff. Dude. You know what I mean? It was like, oh yeah, the handlebars in the desert and all that stuff. Like, yeah.
Yes,
I remember. So that Adam and the Metal Hawks show, I'm stoked because that dude is unreal and he sings. Got a gorgeous voice, but he also does the Jack Black thing really well. Mm-hmm. So I'm like I was saying to you before we started chatting, like I already know they're good. I can't wait to hear what their songs sound like. Like I'm not going to check them out before the show because I want my first like experience, other than the TikTok stuff you see and whatnot. Like I want my first experience of that band to be like that live show, because that dude has got such a voice on him, man. I can't wait to hear it live.
Yeah, I was hyped to see that they were number one touring, because I didn't know, like when I first, because obviously someone sent me the thing, because you know they were like, dude, have you heard this guy? He like sounds like Jack Black, but like he's really, really good. Like he's kind of got that vibe. And I remember I saw the Kickapoo thing, right, where he's like working out or something. He's like getting ripped or whatever, and he's singing Kickapoo, and like it's note for note. But then I went back and looked at a bunch of other stuff they did, and he's singing like AC/DC. He's singing Guns N' Roses. There was one they did, I think it was a Guns N' Roses song, where he just like note for note nails it. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, not take nothing away from the rest of the guys because they're all talented as fuck, but like, I was like, yo, who is this guy? And why is he not like doing more in music? So it's so cool to hear, number one, that they're an actual band too. Like that was so cool to hear. And man, I'm hyped for you guys because it's gonna be great. And I mean, they're TikTok famous. That's like the new coolest thing you can be right now, right?
Well, you know what, man? Like they're good players. Like, you know, it's not gonna suck. I'm just way more excited to hear like, what are your songs like? Because you're
right.
obviously great at playing, like, and you know good music. So like, I want to hear the songs so bad, man. I'm excited. And I was gonna say something too about that guy. Oh yeah, no, dude. So like his thing, he was on American Idol at some point. I don't know if it's like ever, and I think he almost won. Like he finished like top 5, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then he just figured out how to play the social media game, put a band together of young guys. Like you can tell his band are like kids, man, like probably early 20s, and they're all just so tight. They rip. Like I'm stoked to hear this band.
It's going to be a good show. Not to mention Revive the Roses on the bill. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Andy's always been hang. Fucking those guys are beauties. They always bring it. You know, I've never not enjoyed a Revive of the Rose. That, man, I've seen them probably 4 or 5 times, and every single time it's like, you know what you're gonna get. You know, and even the nights where you know the guys are hurting a little bit, you still, anybody else in the audience, you can't tell. You know, the only reason I know is because I saw them backstage before, and they're like, "Oh, I'm tired, man." You know what I mean?
It's like, holy shit, that was a long night. Like, yeah,
I'm tired. Yeah. Well, some of those Friday night, you know, you start a weekend run and you start out in, you know, Peterborough or Kingston or all the way out in Ottawa on the Friday night. You know, that full day of commuting. Maybe you worked a couple hours too. Like that Friday night is always rough.
Oh, for sure. That's it, man. Well, I'm excited. That's going to be badass. And going back for a minute, as you guys are hearing this tonight, March 17th, as Brendan mentioned, you can go to the Bovine Sex Club in Toronto if you are there. 9 p.m. Go check out the Jungle LP vinyl release party for the Jailbirds. And your off top Alibi is going to be there too, shredding and melting faces. So, man, the vocal power that's going to be on that fucking bill is just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Mike's got the guy in Buffalo Bill's good too. And Coster, man, he actually released a new song a few weeks ago. He sounds really good too. I mean, the followaways were good, man. So like, you knew whatever he was going to do afterwards was going to be good.
Mm-hmm. That's it, man. I have to make that vocal power joke every single time I see you and Mike on the same bill. Cause just, I think I've made that dumb joke like 3 times. Anytime Kaylin posts that picture
I know.
of you and Mike and her, I'm always just like, thanks for shredding my phone, guys. Fuck. Like,
yeah, she'll be there too. She'll be at the show tonight. Will be there. So yeah, you've become quite the GTA music scene dude. You're pretty already.
Well, I'm gonna pitch to Kaylin, like, we're just gonna make a whole other podcast. We're gonna call it Bands That Know Kaylin, and then we're gonna have this management company. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna pitch her to her next time we talk.
You probably end up being able to get Todd Kearns on your show.
Yeah, well, I mean, she knows everybody. It's fine.
That's it, right?
That's it.
She's great. She made this awesome. She sent me a picture of it. She's like, I would surprise you, but I want to show you because it looks great. She made this collage of like her photo gallery, like the stuff she's really proud of and she really likes of all the bands she shot. Like I noticed just looking at it quickly, like we were on there, the Jailbirds, One of the Chamber, Dirty Rick was on there. I'm pretty sure I saw Revive the Rose on there. And she made a collage over like a shamrock because it's St. Patty's Day, right? So, and she's like, I'm gonna bring this and you guys got to sign it. And I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. Like, it's nice to see people get enthusiastic about good rock music still these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's someone who is. Anytime I speak with someone now who like knows her in any way, she always comes up in conversation at some point, and it's just like having her on the show was like it was great. But like she's so just enthusiastic and so passionate that it's just like you can't help but get excited about good rock and roll when you're talking to Caleb, for sure. That's
it.
That's it, brother. Well, what else? Like, do you guys have anything else kind of planned for the year right now that you can talk about?
Well, man, we like there's things we want to do. There's processes that are happening. We want to get on the road, and there are some options for us right now. But we got to see what some of those logistics are going to look like.
Right.
But what I can tell you is that we have a ton of music, and you know, we have a process that's quick for us and we're super happy with, and it's comfortable, and we have a lot of songs, and we're just going to get a lot of music out for the rest of this year into next year. Like there's a lot. Our big thing right now is, you know, we're reclaiming kind of the last 2 years that we're gone, and we're just gonna put out all the songs we like and go from there, man. Just go from there.
That's awesome, bro. Just focus on what you really, truly, why you started doing this, which is writing kick-ass songs and playing badass shows.
That's it, buddy.
And it sounds like that's it, man. That's awesome to hear. Well, I want to go back for a minute because you mentioned earlier, you mentioned Queens of the Stone Age a few times. So I have to ask, what's your favorite Queens of the Stone Age record? Do you have one?
Oh, man. I consistently bounce between obviously Songs for the Deaf.
Of course, yeah.
Lullabies and Like Clockwork. But every now and again, I just all of a sudden I'm like, Rated R is their best album. Like I'm very
okay.
Jump all over the place. But like, I don't know, a song that I consistently skip songs on the least is probably Like Clockwork. But I also have to be in a mood for Like Clockwork. You know what I mean?
I totally like I'm not a huge Queens of the Stone Age fan because I had a buddy who was way too into them at one point. So like it's like the Foo Fighters effect, you know? Like I love the Foo Fighters, but like anytime I hear Dave Grohl, I want to punch a baby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I can't. It's like this weird thing for me. But obviously, you know, you look at Queens of the Stone Age, and I mean, like, they were such a polarizing band for so long, and then it was almost like overnight, it was like, oh, okay, now they're on the radio all the time. Interesting. Like, just it was almost like it took a few years for the world to kind of catch up to Songs for the Deaf. And then like I heard No One Knows on the radio all the time. It was like 2005, 2006. They dropped Lullabies, which is my favorite Queens of the Stone Age. I almost called them the Stones. Queens of the Stone Age record. But yeah, it was like now I hear No One Knows on the radio like all the time, and I'm always like,
you know, and like it's funny you say that because once the world kind of did catch up to this thing, and like the Foo Fighters were big, and it's like, oh, Dave Grohl drums in this band. What the fuck? Like they shot all these videos. They did this big world tour, playing like 70,000 persons festivals in fucking Europe with Mark Lanigan singing still. Like rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Mark Lanigan.
Drums. And then like by the time the world caught up, it's like, oh my God, the drummer from Nirvana is in all their music videos. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like it was just ultra cool thing. And then Little Sister was a fucking huge hit, you know, Go With the Flow, Songs to the Deaf. Like to think that all three of those songs were out and rotating by the time people were listening, it's like, oh my God, like their three biggest songs were out all at the same time by the time people knew who they were. You know, it's just, it was consistent, man. Like, and then, you know, Era Vulgaris, people say what they will about it. Like the hits that came off that album were like,
such a cool record.
It's a great song. And it's like, they just had like iconic hit after iconic hit spread out over albums. It just kept them relevant for so long that they could literally disappear for the better part of 7 years and then just come out of nowhere with a Billboard 200 record with Clockwork, you know. It's like, it's madness. And Lullabies, we basically like recorded we record our music now the way they recorded Lullabies.
Right. Which is very
beds live off the floor. They take the best take. So they use click for some songs. They don't use click for the others. We're kind of experimenting with that too. We're close to being able to not use a click for certain songs. Jeff would tell you he's ready, but you know, as a band, it's like the takes with the takes with clicks, and just in Jeff's ear, nobody else hears the click. So I kind of do blame Jeff, but I'm sure it is because it's the guitar player or something, right?
Of course. Well, yeah, but, I mean, you know. Guitar player blames the drummer blames the guitar player, everyone blames the bassist, you know, it's all.
But that's kind of what we, like Dylan showed me the song Tangled Up in Plaid years ago, and just explained to me like what the process for lullabies was, and I would hear that just boom.
That's my favorite Queens of the Stone Age song, so yeah.
Then I slept and leaned away. Like, holy, like this is cool. Like, yeah, let's shoot for this. Sure. Like if this is the sound, it was when he showed me that song, I really drank the Kool-Aid on, it's not going to sound like a 70s Aerosmith record if we do this live off the floor. Like there's ways to do this now. You can do 808 drops on a floor tom if it's at the end of a fill. You can do this. You can use old amps. You can use fuzz. You can, put, rail the mids on the bass guitar instead of the low end. So all your low ends in your kick drum. And I just would listen to this song and be like, if the gist of that process is you just have to nail a take off the floor and then you can go to work from there. We just need a fifth member. And, Jeff hooked us up with Graham Shaw, man. And it really came together. And so truthfully, I guess the biggest impact Queens of the Stone Age has had on this band, especially during isolation, was just, of course, some of the writing is getting a little more bent now, but just like a bit of a looking in view as to how they actually go about doing those sounds.
Right.
And like being able to like, oh, well, that method is doable here. I don't have all the same gear, but that's good because we can't sound exactly like you. Like we want to sound like us. You know what I mean? And that just was really exciting because we all knew we were good enough to do it. We just needed to find a guy, and we found Graham Shaw. And, the Crownlands guys, Cody and Kevin will tell you that he's the real deal, and he's the sweetest guy, super nice. The farmhouse is amazing to work out of. And it's just a good vibe, man. It's comfortable. It's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd be a little disheartened if all of a sudden I see you post a picture of like an early 90s Gorilla amp with the speaker cut in it or something. I'd be like, come on, man. That's literally like, come on. You got to be a little different from Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, used, home audio solid state amps that are with like 8 mics on them. We can't do that.
Got to get that vintage shit.
That's it, man. I'm so grateful. My good buddy, Charlie Edward, who I got to show you some shit, man. He's been getting to play with that guy over the last couple of years, and what a fun time we have, man. We've written some songs together, and he's like, yeah, you want, I'm like, let's record and let's play shows. I'm like, sure. And we're doing that. And
that's awesome.
He found this 1974 Marshall Fawn down in Windsor, and I told him I would buy it, and him and his dad went and got it for me. I was like, Charlie, man, you fucking beauty. I sent him the money, and now I have this vintage amp that I spent way too much money on, but it's like, well, I'm never going to get rid of this thing. Like, whatever. Yeah. I love playing with that kid, man, but he's a stickler for needing to have really expensive vintage gear to get the right guitar sounds, So I was convinced to buy it. And it's made it on a bunch of the drop top stuff too. It's just a great amp. So I'll use a vintage Marshall, and we'll keep the Desert Session amps over there for now.
That's fantastic. Well, that's awesome. Well, it's good to hear that, you're still, kicking ass and taking names. I think that 2022 is going to be such an awesome fucking year for so many bands like yourselves. And, you're always one of those bands that always comes up. Anytime I'm talking to someone, 9 times out of 10, Drop Top always seems to come up some way, shape, or form.
That's good, man. I like that. Sometimes it's hard to know that, like you can't see it, but then people, people tell you about it and it's like, oh, wow, I actually am kind of surprised, but that feels good.
Well, I'll tell you, like, on my like liked playlist on Spotify, I mean, Eyes for You pops up every, not every once in a while, like a little more than that, but I'm always just like, fuck yeah. And I go back to our that first interview we did, and I look at it fondly, and you guys have always been one of those bands that really stood out to me from that era of, the quote unquote classic rock revival. It's like, yeah, okay, but there's a lot more to it than that with bands like yourselves, right? Because there are a lot of bands out there that, they're like, yeah, I hate talking shit about Greta Van Fleet because they've kind of changed a little bit now. They're a little more unique now. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, there's all these great like classic rock revival bands. And I'm like, yes, but have you heard Drop Top? Have you heard Revive the Rose? Have you heard the Jailbirds? Like, there's so much unique, great rock and roll out there that still kind of sort of has that vibe that you can, if you're in your 50s and stuff and you grew up with rock and roll, you're probably going to dig it, right? Like it's so fun to look at this scene right now that's in, I just say all of Ontario, really. Like, it's not even the GTA. It's like this scene in Ontario where there's just so many bands that are just kicking ass, man. And you guys are definitely at the top of the list as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much. And there are a lot of great bands out there, and we're lucky enough to get to know so many of them on a personal level. Even the guys from out of town, like Taming Sorry and Dead Levy, like, to get to meet those guys along the way and play with them, like, it's cool. Steve Kernsey from The Wolf, he really thinks it would be like a Canadian rock period, similar to like when Canada had, OLP, Big Wreck, Tea Party, Moist, Finger 11, to a certain extent, the Trues, in terms of like they were more like early 2000s.
A little bit after, but yeah. Like same era kind of.
I Mother Earth, where there was just like, that's a dozen bands who like really like the notoriety was mainly just here, and they all have had very successful careers, like, and they were all great bands. And yeah, Kernsey really thinks that a period like that might happen again. And I think it can, but I think a lot of that's going to depend on, the industry in Canada too. They just don't seem interested in a lot of bands that kind of have that, sort of throwback sound, because things work in cycles, and things like, pop punk and all that stuff, that shit's 20 years old now. Right. So we're kind of in different revival modes right now. I wonder if punk and grunge make more of a comeback, because it's usually the response to like super polished, clean stuff, which is like today is very reminiscent of the 80s right now,
Right. So
I wonder if it gets, back to, grown ass men running around in Speedos on stage like Perry Farrell and, Flea and all those guys did, right? Or does it get really angry and like, you have people, like Juice WRLD, like, some of those other guys who passed away super young. And then even like Billie Eilish, like there are genres that have those kind of counterculture characters who are now just huge. I wonder, like, that's going to happen for rock again. And I wonder if the amount of talent and like different sounds of bands that Canada has, it's going to be one of those, like when one goes, a lot more go.
Yeah.
Kind of things. And it's like, are any of these bands going to have that opportunity? Or is it going to kind of come, it's a small industry, right? So it's like, you kind of almost have to take over it yourself and have everyone just sort of like Cleopatra's doing a great job of that right now.
Yes. I was about to mention them. Yeah.
They are literally just like, they can do everything themselves if they want to. And they have been,
Yeah,
and now they're Juno nominated. They're, it's like, it's definitely, they're doing direct support runs with Royal Blood. Like these aren't small things, man. It's like, and to see them just doing it on their own is so cool, because it's hard to be different and get anywhere in Canadian music, man. It really is. like Canada's music scene will get infatuated with different flavors. You know, like some of the indie pop stuff got pretty wild and wacky there for a bit.
Yeah.
But Canada was hot on that. You know what I mean? Like if Canada ever gets hot on like really heavy, well-written, like messy, but still brilliant rock music again, there are a lot of bands who, if they, you know, if they want to get in a van and drive around, people will be there. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 5-10 years, especially as like coming out of COVID, sort of how does everything bounce back, right?
Well, that's it. And I mean, the reality of the situation is like coming out of this dark time period in the world, like, and in a lot of ways, I guess, still in it, like, there are some people that just, I base a lot of things on what's happening with the trends of quote unquote popular music in a way with my fiance, right? Because she is strictly a, you know, top 40 pop, you know, that's pretty much her thing. She likes some stuff, but like, you know, that's kind of her bread and butter, right? So when I hear her listening to like, you know, like heavier stuff and, you know, it's just like, I hear people who usually only listen to the top 40 and pop stuff listening to rock and roll and heavy stuff with heavy guitars. And it's like, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. Because people aren't in the mood to listen to like happy, prissy, like, you know, indie pop and stuff like that. Cause it's just like, I want something real. I want something that is emotion. I want something that is going to pump me up. I want something that's honest and real. And not saying that there's not indie pop out there that is not honest and real, but it's just, to me, it is such a different feeling having just a killer riff to start your day as opposed to whatever else, whatever, you know, you know, and however a pop song on the radio might start. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is the difference between, you know, I'm seeing it with a lot of people, even in kids. I'm seeing a lot of, you know, like classic rock band t-shirts, and these kids actually know the band. And like, I'm like, okay, like it's there because people don't, you know, after dark periods of time in the world, people generally art tends to get darker, right? That's like, it's always been a thing. So it's like, there's going to be a lot of bands that are coming out from this that like, hey, we're not happy. Like, yeah. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, you know, a lot of people have been cooped up and they're sick and tired of it and they're ready to get back to life. And it's like, there's going to be a lot of really beautiful art that's going to come from this time period, but also there's going to be a lot of that more darker, kind of grungier side of art, right? So I think we're going to see it happen, and I think it's just literally a matter of time. And I personally think it's going to happen and hope it happens because there's so many talented bands out there and talented bands in Canada and Ontario that are just ready to destroy, you know, if they can just really get the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And it's even to just like, you know, get to do the college circuit again or something. Cause that's right. That's what people are booking. Like if rock music gets back to that over the next 5-10 years, like there are a lot of great bands that people are going to get to enjoy. So we'll see what happens, you know?
Yeah. At the end of the day, if we just, you know, can keep making and playing kick-ass rock and roll, I mean, there are worse things to do with your time, right? Yeah.
Right on.
That's it, brother. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on and chatting and sharing some stuff with us about kind of what you guys got going on. Again, guys, down below, I will have the link in the description for Dylan's song, not Dylan's song, excuse me. I heard you say that's not why. Technically, it's Dylan's song, I guess, whatever, but Dill's song. I'll have the link down below. Go pre-save it right now. We got a little more time. Let's get them to 100, man. I betting we got to be getting there. You know what I mean? I'd go on and just pre-save it 100 times myself, but I can't. So let's do it. Let's get this up over. Drop Top needs your support, and they deserve your support, man, because they are a badass fucking band. And if you are in the Toronto area tonight, as you are hearing this, March 17th, go check out the Jailbird Drop Top Alibi at the Bovine Sex Club. It's going to be a badass fucking show.
Great to see you again, buddy. We'll have to talk again soon.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, I won't wait like 2 years to have you on again. Let's chat a lot sooner again, brother.
Sounds good, man. Have a good night.
All right, thanks, brother. All right, guys, there you have it. My chat with Brandon Gregory from Drop Top Alibi. Hope that you enjoyed it. Always a good time getting to chat with Brandon. Again, I have the link down below for the pre-save and also just to the Drop Top Alibi website. So go check it out. If you are listening to this before March 18th, please take a second to go pre-save the link for Dill's song, because honestly, it is a badass song, and they really deserve your support, and they need your support, because the industry needs to pay more attention to badass rock bands like Drop Top Alibi. So go pre-save the song right now, and a huge shout again to Brandon and Drop Top Alibi for number one, coming on the show and always having a good time with them, and also for the support of this podcast. They're always, liking my stuff and sharing, and I know they have good things to say about the show I've heard from other people, so thank you very much for that, and thank you so very much for listening, especially if you're still listening. Here at the outro, I mean, come on, you're seriously like the bee's knees. When was the last time I said the bee's knees? The bee's knees, whatever the hell, let's go with it, and I very much appreciate it, just like I appreciate all the support that I get here on the show. Anyone who takes a second to leave a rating for the podcast, or leave a like or a subscribe or a comment, stuff like that always helps the show. And if you really want to take a big step in helping the show, take a second to go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating if you enjoyed the show and enjoyed this conversation. It really seriously helps me. 5-star ratings help this show grow and climb the charts. And if you really, really, really want to take it a step further to help this podcast, consider becoming a patron, a hothead, and join my friends, Mr. Scotty Duquette, who is, of course, one of my dearest friends, and he's been a good friend of mine for a very long time. Big supporter of this show. Scotty, you know how much I love you, buddy. I appreciate your friendship very much, and also your support of this podcast. Pretty much a patron from day one there, folks. Mr. Scotty D, the man, the myth, the legend. We gotta get Scott on here sometime. I think it'll be a lot of fun, but we'll talk. We'll talk. Slide into my DMs. We'll make that happen. And of course, I need to give a humongous shout out as well to the Grey Rooms podcast, who are big time supporters of myself and this show. I cannot thank the entire team over at the Grey Rooms enough. Their patronage pushed me over the edge to be able to hit my goal on Patreon and be able to make a couple of changes to the show, which are coming. I wasn't expecting to hit my goal so quickly, and unfortunately, February was a bit of a write-off as far as real life stuff. So I'm a little behind, but I assure you, one major change is coming to the audio production of the show. I'm going to be getting that zip program very, very shortly, like this week, early next week. It's all lined up and ready to go, and then also I have some exclusive Patreon content coming as well this month. So very excited for that. And a huge shout out to the Graham's team, because they were a big part of that happening. And if you want a little shout out like that every single episode, and some cool behind the scenes content and fun exclusive content you're not going to hear anywhere else or see anywhere else, if it's a video podcast, which is coming as well on the over on the Patreon, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/The Harder Show. And find a tier that is right for you. It can be as little as $1 a month, and you'll get access to some cool behind the scenes stuff, live streams, exclusive content, things of that nature. As you go up, of course, you get cooler, exclusive content. I have one exclusive content show that I actually talked about on the live stream, which was actually beginning of February. Which is going to be, I haven't really even announced it officially yet. I did announce it on the live stream though. So I'll give you guys a little sneak peek here for those who are still listening. It is going to be basically a unrated, uncut interview show, but like not really an interview show. It's just going to be me and the guest just bullshitting and having a beer. My plan is to show up to the interview already kind of half in the bag. So you're going to get full uncut, raw conversations that are just going to be ridiculous, and conversations I wouldn't normally have here on the Hotter Show. So stay tuned for that. Let's have a beer. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check out the Patreon if you so choose. If you do, I will be eternally grateful, and you get a little shout out every single episode of the show, and as well as some cool stuff. So check it out. Or if you don't want to, just subscribe helps a lot. Leave a like helps a lot. Leave a rating helps a lot. Thank you so very much for listening, especially listening all the way to the end here. If you're listening right now, seriously, give yourself a pat on the back, because you are seriously the person I very much appreciate. To give you the old patented exclusive here to the Hotter Show podcast, the patented audio fist bump. Do you hear like the depth on that? The shake of the microphone stand? What other podcaster would fist bump their microphone? Just this guy right here, baby. This guy right here who's got two thumbs and punches their microphone. This guy right here. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here tonight. Thank you guys so very much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on The Hotter Show. Take it easy, guys.